In the quaint neighborhood of Maplewood Grove, where perfectly manicured lawns were the norm, lived an avid garden gnome collector named Alex. Their obsession began as a whimsical tribute to childhood memories, each gnome representing a different adventure or story from their past. Alex had crafted a delightful little garden, adorned with cheerful, colorful gnomes that brought joy to passersby and became a beloved feature of the community. Among the collection was a particularly special gnome, an intricately painted figure gifted by Alex's late grandmother. Its bright blue hat and mischievous grin stood out among the others, imbuing the yard with nostalgia and charm. Little did Alex know, this gnome would soon become the catalyst for an explosive series of events. When it mysteriously vanished one sunny afternoon, suspicion swiftly turned towards Karen, the overzealous HOA board member known for her ultra-strict enforcement of neighborhood rules. The loss of the cherished gnome not only sparked Alex's heartache but also ignited thoughts of unexpected revenge, setting the stage for an unforgettable showdown. The Maplewood Grove Homeowners Association, led by the notorious Karen, was a force to be reckoned with. Known for her authoritarian demeanor, Karen took her role as HOA president to an obsessive level, wielding the association's rules like a sword over the community. She was fiercely dedicated to maintaining the neighborhood's pristine image, often going door to door with her clipboard, scrutinizing lawns and facades for any sign of noncompliance. From the height of hedges to the color of mailbox paint, nothing escaped her watchful eye. Residents lived in a constant state of anxiety, fearing her wrath should they dare bend a rule. Karen's penchant for enforcing regulations created an atmosphere stifled by conformity and suspicion. Whispers circulated about her excessive fines and public shaming tactics aimed at those who dared to question her authority. As Alex grappled with the loss of their beloved gnome, they knew that Karen's obsession with order had reached a fever pitch, fueling their determination to find justice or, at the very least, a memorable act of rebellion. The day the gnome disappeared began like any other in Maplewood Grove, with sunlight streaming through the trees and birds chirping cheerfully. However, as Alex stepped into the garden to admire their collection, a wave of dread washed over them. The cherished gnome, the one wearing the bright blue hat and painted with loving detail, was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as Alex searched every nook and cranny of their yard, hoping it was merely misplaced. When reality struck, this gnome was truly missing. Frustration bubbled to the surface. With a heavy heart, Alex's thoughts turned toward Karen. Her obsession with rules made it all too likely that she had deemed the cheerful gnome an eyesore or a violation of some obscure HOA guideline. Anger mixed with disbelief as they imagined her smug face, reveling in her perceived victory over their garden. This loss ignited a fire within Alex. A desire for retribution surged as they plotted how to reclaim their missing gnome and teach Karen a lesson she wouldn't forget. Fueled by frustration and a newfound determination, Alex began crafting an elaborate plan to retaliate against Karen. Inspired by the vibrant garden gnomes that had brought them so much joy, they envisioned a whimsical yet powerful statement, covering Karen's pristine lawn with a staggering 10,000 cement gnomes. This outrageous idea not only promised hilarity but also served as a symbol of rebellion against Karen's oppressive reign over the neighborhood. The preparation was no small feat. Alex enlisted the help of friends, turning the project into a rallying cry for fellow residents tired of Karen's stringent rule enforcement. They sourced materials, mixing concrete and crafting molds in various sizes to give each gnome its own unique personality. Each friend took part in painting these figures with bright colors and playful designs, ensuring they were as eye-catching as they were numerous. This collaborative effort transformed into an art project filled with laughter and camaraderie, rekindling the community spirit that had frayed under Karen's control. As the day of installation approached, excitement bubbled over, setting the stage for an unforgettable culmination of creativity and defiance. As the day of execution arrived, excitement mixed with a touch of nervousness among Alex and their friends. They gathered at sunset the night before, armed with bags filled with concrete mix, paint, and countless molds shaped like gnomes. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, perfect for their ambitious prank. Under the cover of darkness, they carefully set up a makeshift assembly line in Alex's backyard. Friends mixed concrete while others poured it into molds, creating gnome after gnome with gleeful energy. Once enough gnomes were prepared, they loaded them into vehicles and made their way to Karen's pristine lawn under the blanket of night. With flashlights in hand, they began distributing the gnomes across the yard, placing them in amusing configurations, some standing guard by the mailbox and others peeking out from behind her meticulously trimmed bushes. Laughter erupted every time a new gnome was positioned. It felt more like an art installation than a prank. As dawn approached and the last of the gnomes was set in place, a sense of triumph washed over Alex and their teammates, knowing they had crafted something unforgettable in defiance of Karen's rules. The following morning, the sun rose to reveal Karen's lawn transformed into an artful chaos of cement gnomes, their bright colors gleaming in the light. When she stepped outside, her eyes widened in disbelief before narrowing with fury. The sight of countless gnomes mocking her carefully maintained landscaping sent her into a frenzy. She stormed back inside, grabbing her phone to call the local authorities, convinced that this was not just a prank, but an act of vandalism that required immediate intervention. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, some stifling laughter while others shared nervous glances. Karen's anger escalated as she paced back and forth, hurling threats at anyone who dared to step foot on her property. Her voice carried through the neighborhood as she declared that she would have the perpetrators arrested. Fueled by rage, she unleashed a tirade about how such antics would never be tolerated under her watch. Unbeknownst to her, Alex and the gang watched from a distance, reveling in her outrage and feeling a mix of satisfaction and anticipation for what might unfold next. In her furious desperation to regain control, Karen took matters into her own hands. Convinced that the prank was a deliberate attack on her authority, she devised an illegal plan to retaliate against Alex and their friends. Under the cover of night, she slashed the tires of Alex's car, an act of vandalism that shocked the neighborhood. Fueled by rage, Karen believed this would send a clear message. Defiance against her rule would not be tolerated. The next morning, neighbors were stunned to see not only the sea of gnomes but also the damage on Alex's car. Whispers of Karen's actions spread quickly, stirring a mix of outrage and disbelief among residents who had long been intimidated by her. Many questioned whether she had finally crossed a line. As news of the incident reached Alex, they felt a surge of anger but also a sense of vindication. Karen's overreaction only further highlighted the absurdity of her reign. This escalating feud was now primed for a confrontation that neither side could ignore. The fallout from Karen's brazen act of vandalism rippled through Maplewood Grove, igniting a chorus of outrage among residents who had long felt oppressed by her reign. The news of Alex's slashed tires spread like wildfire, prompting many neighbors to come forward with their own stories of intimidation and overreach at the hands of the HOA president. With escalating tensions in the community, a group of residents decided enough was enough and took action. Fueled by a sense of solidarity, they collectively reported Karen's illegal actions to the local authorities. As law enforcement arrived to investigate, questions swirled about whether her behavior was symptomatic of a larger problem within the HOA. Karen, cornered and frantic, attempted to justify her actions but quickly found herself facing scrutiny from both the police and her formerly compliant neighbors. The situation escalated further as officers collected evidence while neighbors gathered, some expressing support for Alex and others calling for Karen's accountability. It became clear that this conflict had reached a boiling point, setting the stage for a clash that would alter the dynamics of the entire neighborhood. The court proceedings began with a palpable tension in the air, as curious neighbors packed the courtroom to witness the fallout from their community's unfolding drama. Karen sat at the defendant's table, her expression a mix of defiance and panic, facing charges of vandalism and property damage stemming from her retaliatory act against Alex. The prosecution detailed how her actions not only impacted Alex, but also violated the rights of residents who had felt silenced under her oppressive rule. Contrastingly, Alex was called to testify, presenting their antics as a humorous yet harmless rebellion against HOA tyranny. The atmosphere shifted as Alex recounted their creative endeavor, transforming an ordinary lawn into a playful spectacle with no intent to harm. Witnesses spoke of how the gnome prank had invigorated the community spirit, while Karen's actions revealed her desperation for control. As the trial progressed, it became increasingly clear that Karen was out of touch with the changing sentiment of Maplewood Grove. Her excessive need for dominance now pitted against a formerly subdued neighborhood ready for change. As the verdict was announced, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. The judge declared Karen guilty of vandalism and property damage for her reckless actions against Alex, sentencing her to a brief but impactful imprisonment. As she was led away, a mix of emotions washed over the spectators. Relief for those who had long been intimidated by her, and a somber recognition of how far the conflict had escalated. The community had witnessed a transformative moment. Many residents felt empowered to speak out against oppressive behavior, emboldened by Alex's playful yet poignant rebellion. From that day forward, whispers of change and solidarity swept through Maplewood Grove as neighbors discussed their newfound sense of camaraderie. Alex became somewhat of a local hero, celebrated not just for reclaiming their garden gnome but also for courageously confronting an outdated power structure that had silenced them for too long. As laughter replaced whispers of fear, a collective hope emerged. Karen's downfall signaled not just justice served but also the possibility of a brighter, more united future for the community. The saga of Alex and Karen in Maplewood Grove serves as a microcosm of broader themes in society, individuality versus conformity, and the power of humor as a tool for resistance. In a neighborhood where fear of authority had stifled creativity and expression, Alex's whimsical act of rebellion with the 10,000 cement gnomes transformed not just their garden, but also the community spirit. Through laughter and satire, they challenged Karen's tyrannical grip, showing that humor can be an effective weapon against oppression. As the residents rallied behind Alex, they rediscovered their own voices, breaking free from the shackles of conformity that had kept them silent for too long. The outcome highlighted an important lesson. Justice often comes when individuals unite against unfairness, often in unexpected ways. In reclaiming their identities and asserting their rights to self-expression, the people of Maplewood Grove found empowerment not just in standing up to authority, but in embracing their uniqueness together. This narrative reminds us that even small acts of defiance can lead to monumental change when fueled by community support and shared laughter.